Welcome to the Florida Veterans for Common Sense July meeting, and I'd like to introduce our two speakers tonight. First is Jesse Coleman on the left of your screen, and Jesse, like me, is one of those unusual people, a native of Florida, and he actually grew up in the Sarasota area. So he knows a lot about our area, and he's the executive director of WSLR and Fogartyville. And Jesse grew up listening to community radio and also participating. I didn't know this until recently, but Jesse was actually in a band, and he used to perform at the old Fogartyville. And so Jesse has a long-term connection with WSLR and Fogartyville. And Jesse's committed to the idea of WSLR, which is really to build independent journalism. And that is so important and from the perspective of peace and justice. And that's important for FLVCS too, because that's the reason we started. Our history, we formed in opposition to George W. Bush's Iraq War. So we've always stood for peace and justice. And so that's totally consistent with WSLR. And that's one of the reasons we like working with them so much, that we have so much in common. And with WSLR, as an independent journalist, we want to do everything we can to encourage independent journalism. And we're really disgusting with outlets like Fox News, which we call a propaganda outlet. And one thing I will say that our group's done for years, our members, if we see Fox News being played in some public place, like a bar or the airport or the hospital or wherever, we like to ask the manager to turn it off, because we don't want to hear that propaganda, because we all know that they're not interested in truth. They're interested in putting out propaganda. And it's basically right-wing propaganda, and some people even call it the state regime media. And then the other corporate media, they're maybe better, but I'm not even so sure of that, because the recent examples that we all know of the media, corporate media selling out to the Trump administration and these fake settlements, just basically giving money to Trump. Also, we have tonight as our second speaker, Johannes Werner, and Johannes really has a long-term connection to Sarasota also. He's lived in Sarasota half his life, and his daughter was born in Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and he has a long-term connection with WSLR too, because he used to do a show of public events. And I'm really envious of Johannes, because he's had beats as a journalist all around the world, from Berlin, Mexico City, Miami, Detroit, and he covered Cuba for a long time. And Johannes actually spoke to our group probably 10 years or so ago about Cuba and updated us with that. So we have two very talented people who are very committed to independent journalism and the way journalism should be presented to the community and in community involvement. So with that lengthy introduction, Jesse, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Gene. That was a beautiful introduction and well said. So thank you very much for that, and thank you all for having us on this evening. But I'm really excited to talk with you all today. And Johannes and I are going to kind of share this presentation a little bit too. So he's going to jump in a little bit. I'll say some things, and we'll get down to brass tacks here. So like Gene said, I am Jesse Coleman. I'm the general manager of WSLR and the executive director of the organization WSLR+Fogartyville. Again, we appreciate you inviting us. Our theme today is simple. The mic is on, powering up people-powered radio. And at WSLR, that's not just a catchphrase for us. It's how we view our role in this community. We are the people's microphone, a platform where Sarasota's diverse voices, grassroots movements, and underrepresented stories can be heard. Florida Veterans for Common Sense has been a key part of this mission with WSLR. Last year, your contribution helped us grow our internship program and really train the next generation of community journalists. You've made a direct investment in making sure that this microphone is not just here today, but for years to come. And we appreciate you all so much for that. And not only that, we're looking to expand our reach to more than just radio. When we say we're powering up people-powered radio, it's not just talking about what goes over the FM airwaves. We've been growing in ways that meet people where they are. So our Critical Times newspaper, which you all have done some great contributions to, has grown in both print and digital resources. Our communications director, Kathleen Murray, has been spearheading the paper since Arlene Sweeting stepped on to her new life up in Michigan. But we are so excited at the work that she's doing to kind of bring that together. Kathleen has decades of experience as a professional journalist and is doing some great work with that. And we've also been able to really make a big impact with our digital production assistant, Lily Maggio. We now, as you may have seen on our website, post our individual news stories from WSLR News, but starting this last issue from the Critical Times as well. So we want to thank Lily and all the hard work that she's been doing to make sure that our articles and the stuff that we put out there is readily accessible to our viewers and our listeners and our audience, so that we can really inform the community on what's going on. We're planning some major website upgrades this year to make that experience even better. And we've expanded our podcasting across all platforms. We're implementing shows like The Detail, the Peace and Justice Report featuring Tom Walker, and Our Changing Environment and Healthy Living Hour. All of these we're focusing on getting podcasted and distributed. It's all about amplifying Sarasota's voices, keeping the mic on in every form that makes sense today. So we'll go forward a little bit here. I want to just go over our mission statement here at WSLR News. Now, we are committed to ensuring a more just and inclusive community through grassroots journalism that matters to working people, that holds power accountable, and that lifts diverse community voices and grassroots movements. This is what we're looking to achieve and how we're going about doing that for WSLR News specifically. Just to give a little context as to where we are at today in 2025, WSLR is wrapping up a 5-year strategic plan, 4 to 5 years, that started when kicked off in 2022, that identified our newsroom expansion as a top priority for the organization. That news department growth has happened in its capacity, and its news offerings have ballooned, and we're very excited about that as an organization. And at our last board retreat back in 2024, our board reaffirmed that commitment to growing news operations. We feel like we as an organization are uniquely positioned to lead as Sarasota's independent news source. We have the skills, we have the talent, we have the network to make things really go well for the organization and for our community at large. We want to keep people informed. We want to make sure that people understand the unique dynamics that happen within this community. And we're doing that in a number of different ways, which we're going to have Johannes jump on and tell us a little bit about. Just before I hand it over to him, I want to kind of illustrate a little bit of what we've been doing this past year. We've been working with our board and community members in our news task force to develop a plan to best distribute and produce the news that we can within our limited means as an organization. We want to make sure that what we are funding as an organization is pushing forward democracy and the values that we hold dear at WSLR. So with that being said, I think you have a good picture of where we are as an organization, and I want to turn it over to Johannes to talk about some of our expansion goals.
All right. Hello, everyone. So what we're trying to do here is marry our grassroots with some more system. And part of that is growing the news team in phases. And we're going to add 1 full-time reporter at the end of this year and an additional one next year. This is what really excites me, because I've been kind of a coach player. I have not just directed a volunteer news team, but I've been reporting myself. And that's a little too much, you know. Shouting from the bench and shooting goals is not a good thing. So we're going to expand our team. We're also adding additional public affairs shows in the shape of Carrie Seedman. We are launching that officially in October. We had a summer test run with which I must say, I must admit, we had a lot of fun. And it will be more fun to come. She's bringing a big fan club with her to WSLR, and that will help our visibility. At the same time, we're trying to build on our existing strength, our grassroots strength. We are an educational institution, as you probably know. You have helped us support our internship program. We're in a kind of a transition. We had this long-standing relationship with New College, but that pipeline seems to be drying up now. We have the first non-New College generation of interns. We have Reese Helmick. He's our very first Florida Gulf Coast University intern. He's studying journalism there. We have Kylie Worth. She studies theater and communications at Florida State University. And we have Mason Chambliss, who is a USF St. Pete student. So these are our summer interns. We are also going to strengthen our public newsroom program. These are our community volunteers. We have 2 annual sessions, training sessions, and each of them usually produces somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen community volunteers who join the reporting team. We have the next workshop coming up in November, every Saturday in November, beginning November 1st. So if any of you are interested in joining the news team, that's the moment. Pencil it into your agenda. And with all that, we will increase our reporting capacity. We are going to increase the number of our reports. And that is very important because that gap keeps growing tremendously. As you know, the news desert is growing. The daily newspaper keeps shrinking, and we are filling a gap that keeps growing. So our increased field reporting and daily broadcasting capacity is very important. All right, this is a little ad with Happy Carrie. She will start her show in October officially. Every first Saturday, tell me if I'm wrong, Jesse, every first Saturday of
I'll clarify. We're going to start on October 4th, which is the first Saturday, but after that, we'll be moving to the second Saturday starting in November. So every month, we'll do a live simulcast from Fogartyville. We encourage you all to come and join us. It's going to be on Saturday mornings at 11, and we're looking into a brunch buffet, so get excited.
All right, Saturday morning activities. Moving on. So the practical changes that we're planning for the beginning of next year is, as of now, we're pre-recording our news. We're going to go live for more immediacy and in smaller portions, 6 portions daily with live in-studio headline broadcasts. They will be 5 minutes each during drive time hours, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. As I said, we will be launching Talk of the Town on the second Saturday, beginning in October. We will consolidate and strengthen our long-form reporting. So we will have these short 5-minute news segments during the week, but we will also have long-form reporting, magazine format, at noon on Saturdays. That's a full hour of longer in-depth reports and interviews. And that will go from 30 minutes to 1 hour over time. All right, moving on. The operational changes include these live in-studio headline broadcasts with increased length and frequency. Right now, we're running 3-minute segments. These will be expanded to 5 minutes, and they will be produced live with sound bites and more immediacy. We will introduce additional volunteer news anchors to deliver those headlines and newscasts, and they will be supporting our existing reporting efforts by staff, interns, and our citizen journalists. We will be producing Talk of the Town with the simulcast live from the Fogartyville stage. And we will consolidate and strengthen our long-form reporting, moving them from Wednesdays and Fridays to Saturdays.
Yes, and Johannes, I just wanted to echo down at the bottom where we talk about those volunteer news anchors. So if any of you have ever had someone tell you you have a voice for radio, this might be the opportunity. Maybe you don't have a background in journalism in the formal sense, or don't feel comfortable necessarily wading too deep into the waters, but would love to get involved on the airwaves. We are looking for voices of all types to help read the news and produce the news. Please get involved. We'd appreciate having you.
So this is what our new weekly schedule will look like. A lot of short news throughout the week, and then the Talk of the Town WSLR News magazine block on Saturdays. Moving on. So how will this benefit the community we serve? Big picture. Right now, we're reporting a lot about the sledgehammer policies that are really putting the wrecking ball at a lot of our nation's institutions. We have been reporting that as well as we can, looking at the consequences of Project 2025, at the consequences of the big, beautiful bill, consequences of deportation policies on our local community. This will expand our coverage of these consequences of big policies on our small town and small community, but it will also open up our opportunity to report about the change that is going to happen bottom up. My take on all this is once the destruction is done, the way to rebuild this nation will happen in communities. It will happen from the bottom up, and WSLR News will be on the pulse. We will not be missing a beat of this community construction.
Thank you so much, Johannes. We just want to reiterate a couple of other benefits we see from this change, kind of the operational changes we're putting in place. We see it as an opportunity for more original, high-quality reporting, heard more frequently in our most listened to segments of airtime. This will obviously also allow us to have timelier content, faster breaking news response, and stronger emergency coverage through live infrastructure and team support. We noticed that the last hurricane, our fearless news director, Johannes Werner, was at the station braving the winds and the rains. And he did a phenomenal job. Even when the power went out and the station went off, we're looking to rebuild some of that infrastructure to make us withstand those storms in the future. And that's going to take investment and team support. So we're looking to build that out. We're also looking to make sure that we can keep our community informed and to spread news about what's going on, because when the power goes out, the cable goes out, the internet goes out, we want to make sure that we're there on the airwaves giving folks important information that's needed during those storms. We see these operational changes also as a benefit to better use of volunteer and staff resources. across our production. We're scheduling out different roles that folks can do based on their strengths, building out our field reporting, and establishing some great on-air delivery. This frees capacity for our organization, and especially Johannes in his role as news director, to better train and support our interns and volunteers and offer that editor role that is really important within community journalism. So how are we going to measure if this is a successful effort? We have benchmark goals with our news task force to gauge our effectiveness in this rollout of the program. We are looking to increase our page views on our website. We're looking to break 1,000 podcast subscribers in Sarasota and beyond. We'd like to grow our base of support for our WSLR News end of year giving campaign. And we'd like to show at least twice as much WSLR News support during our membership drive. So those are going to be kind of the key markers on how we see the news reaching folks. So those are our goals. Those are our actionable, measurable goals that we want to achieve with this news transition. So we feel like this plan is especially important. And I just want to thank Johannes for all of the work that he's put in to make this news team really one that we can count on as a community. So what does it take to truly power up people-powered radio? It takes $187,000 a year to keep WSLR News running strong. That covers staff and interns, training citizen journalists, producing over 250 original news broadcasts every year, publishing critical times, hosting public affairs shows, and expanding our digital distribution. Now, the Florida Veterans for Common Sense has helped us get here, but sustaining this work and growing it further requires partners to believe in Sarasota's need for independent local media funded by the people and for the people. And we want to invite you all to be part of this as we grow and as we transition to our next phase. So how can folks help? If you're not already, we encourage you to become a sustaining evergreen member of WSLR in Fogartyville and checkmark WSLR News with your membership there. Make sure we know that you support this news organization. We'd also have the opportunities for, like you all did in the past, for folks to sponsor internships and journalism training series. Johannes kicked off the public newsroom just at the beginning of last winter in 2024, and it was a phenomenal success for us. We had, I believe, 6 panels where we discussed with journalists all different ways to grow our news ecosystem here in Sarasota, the Suncoast, and beyond. And we had some great discussions, and that also came along with a series of workshops that got us really rocking with some great new citizen journalists, and kicked off another round of those public newsroom series. So we're looking to continue those types of workshops, that type of training for folks, and we'd love it if you could help us amplify WSLR's broadcasts, podcasts, and critical time stories through your networks by sharing them on social media. Makes a huge impact with shares and the virality of social media posts if those get shared far and wide. The other opportunity for folks to contribute is to participate in our programs, whether that's attending a Talk of the Town simulcast that'll be starting up October 4th, or joining us at a Fogartyville event, getting involved with our news headlines as a broadcaster yourself, or listening or becoming a guest on one of our public affairs programs on WSLR. If you believe that Sarasota deserves a truly community-powered news source that uplifts everyday voices, not just those in power, we'd love to talk with you about how to stay involved. The mic is on. We want to keep it that way together. So I just want to say thank you all for your continued support and for having us here on the call tonight. The mic's on. I want to thank you again, and we're happy to take any questions.
Jesse, I'll start out with a question, but first I'll remind people, if you do have a question, put it in the question and answer box so it gets to us. But Jesse, I'll start out in something that's important to all of us. Do you know if we're going to have a giving challenge? And if so, when does that come up again?
Gene, that's a great question. This has been announced already. We do have a giving challenge coming up this spring, 2026. It's going to be happening in April. I believe the exact date is April 15th and 16th that we're seeing. And again, those who haven't experienced a giving challenge before, we know that all gifts, individual gifts from individual donors up to $100 get matched dollar for dollar by the Patterson Foundation. And we are very excited about a phenomenal April and spring drive that we're going to be pushing through. We couldn't wait for this to happen any sooner. We're really excited. It was a great time last year.
What do we see as the future of Critical Times? It seems like it's more difficult every day for print journalism to exist, but you do such a good job with Critical Times. And what's the status? Are you able to predict where that might go?
Thanks for that question, Gene. We're starting to discuss that right now. Our communications director, Kathleen, is really looking over kind of the potential. We've actually seen some great progress on it, especially with our digital distribution happening now. We've had some great articles in this summer edition, and honestly, usually we cut down distribution a little bit in the summertime, and we are almost out of papers. So excited about that. Great job, everybody, taking one and spreading them around. But for the time being, we're kind of examining and maybe doing some slight branding changes in the future here, but we want to keep that community aspect where we're allowing folks the opportunity to put themselves out there for the public to see and read. So we're still kind of figuring out the best way forward, but we think that there's still a path in print media one way or the other.
I'm glad to hear that. And personally, our group thanks you for the many articles that you've allowed us to publish in Critical Times. And we have one great writer who's very informed about ecological problems and climate change, and that's Cody Keller with our group. And I know you've published several of his articles, and they're all excellent. So now we have a very practical question that someone's asked, and it's are the gifts to WSLR tax deductible?
Absolutely. We are a 501c3 organization. We are fully tax deductible for your donations to the organization. So we really appreciate and honor those gifts, and we couldn't do it without them.
That's great to know, because that's very important to some people. And we have another question. What are the demographics of listeners and supporters, if you know?
Well, one thing I can say is almost 2/3 of our internet readers of the news are female. I'm not like Christopher Rufo, needs more testosterone, but it's still a call to you guys out there to check out our news and read as well. So we have a strongly female followership when it comes to the news. On air, we have about 10,000 listeners a week. That is being surpassed by viewers online. Since we post each of the news reports online, we have more people reading or listening to the news through that way. And we have expanded lately out of our usual progressive box, thanks to a China-based news consolidator called Newsbreak. They pick up systematically available local news in US markets and redistribute, repackage. And suddenly we have listeners from all over the place. And that, I mean, locally, Northport, I assume these are political demographics that we have not reached before. So that has been very positive for us.
And can you tell how many people are watching your podcasts?
Yes. Now, that's something we're looking to grow. We've been experimenting a little bit more and working on things. Our subscriber count isn't quite high yet, but we do see the numbers and the data rolling in. So we have about between 200 and 300 listeners to the podcasts a week. But we're looking to expand that pretty dramatically. And we think we can. We just need to do a little extra marketing. community radio hasn't always had the strongest marketing muscle in the world, so we're going to be trying to flex it. But one of the things, as we talk about demographics, that we didn't really discuss too much, but we're really excited about, is next week we're offering our first youth radio camp for news specifically. So we've got high schoolers joining us to produce a Friday edition of the WSLR News. It's going to be really exciting, but we want to kind of take that grassroots approach to bringing young people into the fold and getting them acclimated to community radio. So we're really excited. We've had 2 music camps. This is our second week that we kicked off today, and really, really feeling fortunate to have so many young people that are interested in doing this sort of thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I have a follow-up question for Johannes. Johannes, you mentioned that a large majority of the listeners seem to be female. It crosses my mind. Why would that be? Do you have...
Of course, my beautiful face. No, I have no clue, really. Jesse, are we historically more female than male at WSLR?
I wouldn't say so. I would say historically we're more male at WSLR, but things have been moving in that direction, both intentionally and somewhat organically. I think that you'll see, especially with social media, I think generally just women are a lot more active on social media that we see, especially kind of the areas that we focus in on, which is really Facebook as a distribution method. And so I think some of that social sharing happens and gets more people reading, along with the fact that we have a fair amount of likely contributors who are of the female persuasion and probably share it with their audiences as well. So that helps out a lot.
And we have a tough question from one of our very good members, Mark Killam. And what Mark wonders if, he really admires the fact that you're committed to report the truth, but what, if any, pressure is placed on you to do otherwise?
The real pressure is, number 1, time and energy, and number 2, being ignored by sources. So we have a weekly struggle to actually get our microphones in front of the people whose voices should be heard, very much determined by resources or the lack thereof. So I would say right now we have only minor challenges in terms of the content we produce or the slant our news has. The challenge is really more about logistics and resources.
Could you expand on that just a little bit, Johannes?
Well, when I started working, it was with a group of volunteers. We have amazing volunteers like Ramon Lopez, like Gretchen Cochran, who are really committed. They work like we pay them 6-digit salaries. They build up beats. They develop expertise. They develop sources. They're very professional about it, but they're the exception of the rule. Most of our reality in the newsroom is constant turnover. So that is something that is hard to deal with when it comes to developing beats, covering it consistently, and delivering the facts as they are happening. So to develop this consistency, we need these resources, and that's why we're adding the 2 full-time reporting positions.
Got it. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because our group, we're totally operated by volunteers. All of us are volunteers. None of us are paid a director's salary or anything else like that. And we know that sometimes with volunteer groups, it's hard to maintain the momentum, and people, understandably, it's hard to commit the time and effort to really what's a job when you're not getting paid. So
yeah, commit to volunteer to cover that school board meeting from 6 p.m. to midnight, and you will have a real dedicated person.
Yeah, that's very tough to find those kind of people. So it's wonderful that you're able to do that. So with that, we'd like to thank Johannes and definitely our Jesse for the great presentation this evening. I know it takes some work to put these presentations together, but you guys did a terrific job and it's very appreciated. So with no further ado, then we'll adjourn the meeting and thank you again, Jesse and Johannes.